person that watches my channel. I'm talking to you, Mr. or Mrs. I don't know. What a weird way to start a video. Anyways, I was thinking, before I turned this on, about something that occurred to me a while ago. Like, I think in July. And I was thinking about this quite a bit in July. I was having a few beers, alone, and I was walking around Daytona Beach. And I was looking at things, and there was just a point. This was like during 4th of July weekend. So there was a point after the fireworks where I was still staring at the sky. Now, I'm not a fan of fireworks, so I wasn't necessarily looking at the fireworks. I think it's, whoa, cool, Sparkies, you know. But what really was fascinating me was the stars. And I was drinking. And I don't always drink, so, you know, when I drink, I start, you know, thinking. I start not being the normal drunk, where when someone drinks too much, they get all belligerent and their IQ goes low. But I was drinking and I was thinking. And I was alone because the person I was actually in Daytona with was at the hotel while I was out just trying to figure out things, and it was like a deep thought kind of night. And I was thinking about the stars, the constellations, how things work, how everything changes constantly. And when I'm thinking about these things and I'm looking at the stars, I was starting to think of the mainstream model. And if it makes sense, and when I mean the mainstream model, I mean what they want you to think of when they think of your solar system. So tons of planets going around the sun, and say that that's what happens. And then the sun goes around, this solar system, let's just say, goes around another solar system, and then that goes around that, and then that goes around that, and then they're all just intermingling to form this huge thing called a galaxy, which we can't comprehend because it's so big. Now, when I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at the constellations and stuff, the first thing I start thinking of is, why do we only see a set of constellation all the time? Like, there's a whole other side of the universe, like, you can point out to, but I always see the side with the Little Dippers. And I know that you guys can explain this, right? Yeah, right lane closed ahead. I hate I-80 in Pennsylvania. Anyways, I'm trying to dive back into what I was talking about. So I always see the side with the Little Dipper, alright? And I see all the constellations, and it's always similar, minus how it's warped. Sometimes some years, I would say, I see the Little Dipper on certain points. And if you study this year after year, depends on when you look at a constellation during the year, which will in fact become the same way the next year at that time period. So let's say you look at the stars every September because you go camping every September. Well, you're going to see the same constellations exactly the same way every year because you go at the same dates. Now, what happens when to make this the exact same shit every time, right? What creates this perfect thing spiraling around something else that makes the exact same thing? Now, this is the important thing I want to get to. When I'm thinking about this perfect system from the mainstream, they want to say, and everything is relevant to everything else to make an equal thing always. I think, okay, well, if our sun is going around other stars, and the stars are going around other stars, and the stars are going around other stars, and then everything that goes around those stars follows it suit, well, what happens to your mind to believe that this is equal every year, knowing that just even a year around the sun is different from us to, like, Pluto. Pluto isn't going to make it all the way around the sun and have this equilibrium. So just in our planets in our solar system, there's a difference. Every year there's going to be a difference because they're not going to be the exact same line just in our planets. So why do we see the same shit every year at the same time? When your star is going around another star, which is going around another star, and they're not going to be at the exact same point. Right? Come on. You're with me? So why have the constellations not changed in thousands of years if this is happening all the time? This going around this, different angles, but their Little Dipper is the same Little Dipper from the ancients seeing this thousands of years ago. Come on, stay with me. Why hasn't it changed? Thousands of years. This going around this, and you got to think three-dimensionally, not just two-dimensionally. Three-dimensionally, it doesn't make sense. Do I dismiss the whole mainstream model because of this? Most people would. Are you already thinking this far? The answer is no. Don't dismiss it. Keep it around. Keep everything around that you can think of to determine why it is that the Little Dipper every year points to the same spot. Now, I can understand the Earth around the sun. This paradigm of being able to see things on the same spot every year at the same time, at the same angle. You know, the Little Dipper's like this at this time, and then like this at this time. But I don't understand how it's so perfect that you only see a quarter of spectrum out every year, depending on where you live on the world. You're only able to see a quarter of the universe, right? So let's say straight up you can see all this shit, but how about the other side? Why can I never see that shit? And why is it that the Little Dipper is up in the sky every time? The same constellations every time. Again, depending on each time of year, depends on what position of the sky it's going to be. So this perfect paradigm confuses the fuck out of me because everything's changing. And like I said, if you're in your own solar system, Pluto isn't going to be in the same spot every year, right? Because they are not going to have that same cycle that we have. This is just in our solar system. But if the stars are going around each other, if this is true, then we have a problem. Because you cannot be perfect every year of this going around this, and for thousands of years. It doesn't make sense. So this is where I'm trying to get. If the stars are so perfect every year, at every moment, at all time for thousands of years, well, what's the difference between that and the planets? Something is fishy. Now, this is where my mind goes. I'm not saying I believe in this shit, but have you ever been to the planetarium? I remember going in as a kid and then realizing or thinking when I actually saw the stars that it was similar. It was almost like a projection. Now, this is the confusing part. Talk to your brother. Shit. Sorry, notifications. What was I saying? Oh, the planetarium. I remember as a child, I used to look at the planetarium, look up, and be like, that looks crazy. But this looks very similar to what I see every day. Or every night, rather. That the stars and the constellations, this is the exact same thing. And I remember as a kid thinking, what if all the stars were a projection on a screen? Again, I'm just making an observation, and I'm telling you the truth of what happened when I was like 10. And this is what was playing through my mind when I was 10. That it could just be a firmament. And yes, when I was 10, I would think that there was some sort of screen or something to block the way. And then I remember a few years later, watching the movie The Truman Show, whenever that came out. Right? I was young when that came out, maybe 11, 12, I don't know, I don't remember. But The Truman Show came out, and they were basically in a planetarium, where they were showing the stars basically on the screen, and there was like a limit, there was a bubble, right? They would create storms in this bubble. They would create a limit to how far the Truman can go. He can go all the way to the wall, right? That's why they were trying to prevent him from finding out that it was all just a thing, right? Like it was just a bubble that he was in this whole time. Well, this also triggered in my mind, what if that was all that we were in, was a bubble? Then come to find out, years later, looking at shit on YouTube, and I say find out, I'm just saying that other people believe that there's some sort of firmament, that we can't go past the firmament. Then I find out that NASA is just never really taken a picture of Earth. A lot of those moon landing scenarios, or being on the moon, was actually filmed in like Nevada and shit. And then when I find out these things, I'm like, wait, is there really like a huge conspiracy to stop, to continue the Matrix? And that's what made me realize, or come to terms with, they aren't telling us the truth. And if they're not telling us the truth, why should I believe them when it doesn't make sense? After thousands of years, the constellations haven't changed, and they're always there, the same. Could it actually be a projection? Again, I don't believe this shit, but it makes you think. Okay, I gotta get around this four-wheeler. There's always that four-wheeler that goes about 20 under the speed limit. No, he's not going that far under. 5 or 10 miles an hour under the speed limit. But anyways, what I'm really getting at here is to try to make you think. Try to examine with your own mind how to comprehend a perfect constellation every year. Is the Earth spinning? Is the Earth flat? Yeah, the Earth is spinning. That's how we can see things every year at the same time, because the spin has come in sync with going around the sun at the exact same bullshit every year. Whether that's an elliptical, whether that's just a circle, whatever that they want to tell us, right? I can't really tell when the sun's farther away or closer, depending on what season it is. I can't tell. It always looks like a big fucking ball in the sky, no matter what. To me, to my perception. And I don't have the answer. So I'm not going to stay here and pretend I have the answer. But if there is some such thing as a firmament, and let's say aliens or whoever's trying to keep us in this matrix puts stars up there and wants you to pretend like it's ever expansive, and what if there isn't a space? What if it's just the Earth and the moon, and the sun's just a spotlight in the firmament? Just saying random shit out my ass right now. Again, I don't believe there's a firmament, but in your mind, you can put it into perspective, like that is a possibility. You can't just say it's not because it doesn't agree with what you were taught your whole life. There is an issue here, and the issue is that things aren't adding up from the mainstream, what they want to tell you. NASA filmed half their shit on Earth, guaranteed, right? Like, this is guaranteed. Hollywood production shit. There is no argument that NASA did the majority of their takes on Earth and then want to change filters and say this was on the moon. There is no arguing against that. Now, is there some legitimate moon footage? Most likely. But I can't tell when we already know that they already faked well over half of it. Like, legit evidence proves that they filmed the majority of it on Earth. And you can take a picture from these places on Earth and be like, well, it's the exact picture that they tried to show on the moon. Not to mention, all the astronauts that went to the moon have no idea what and they're contradicting each other constantly on how physics worked on the moon and how they made it to the moon. And it's all just like a production. And the astronauts can't keep up with the questions because they don't know, because they never went to the moon. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that we never went to the moon. What I'm saying is that the majority of it is faked, and it's empirical evidence proving it. And most of the astronauts have no idea what physics would be like on the moon, so they all contradict each other. So what I'm getting at here is that there is a missing link to the truth, and they have not been able to explain that to us. Do I say that all scientists are lying, or if they're just repeating what they were told? I don't know. I don't know what is going on here. I don't know. All I know is that I have questions, and the mainstream model does not account for my questions. And as easily as I want to just say it's a firmament and it's, there's stars on the firmament and it's every year that you're seeing the same fucking thing, that's an easy explanation that can tie up everything in one nutshell, right? It really can. Because then it would make sense why the constellations never changed. It would make sense why we never could make it to the moon. Things would start making sense. However, I don't believe this shit. It just would make things easily tied up and make sense all of a sudden. Oh, well, if the firmament's there, then it all makes sense. And then you would have to believe in a higher power that put the firmament there. So things would make sense. And then we can, remember my video, Space Does Not Exist? Watch that video if you have not. What I discuss in there is there's no such thing as empty space, and that's what they want to say is outside of our atmosphere is just empty space. So it would tie up and make sense to everything easily if there was a firmament. But I still have questions, right? And because when I look at the stars, it's the exact same thing, and astrologers, is that a word? I just had a brain fart. Astrology, so astrologers. Okay, so astrologers, thousands and thousands of years ago, who would look up and have these same constellations, would say the exact same thing. So if this is going around this and this is going around this, well, you see the figure eights that are going on and shit like that, and different perspectives of things, and after thousands of years at moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour around each other, you would think they would change after thousands of years. And mainstream science has yet to point out why. Oh, it's just perfect. No. If Pluto's at a different spot every year, every moment, then explain these stars that are going a few 100,000 times faster than Pluto. Why haven't they changed? Well, they're millions of light years apart. No. Because they're going around each other. Even if it takes 10,000 years to do something or move, something would change out of all these stars. Something would change, even a quarter of an inch, to make it not look like the Big Dipper, like this going up here and then this going over here and the handle's up here now. You know what I'm getting at? After 10,000 years, something would have minutely changed, but it has yet to. So that's my rant, I guess. Again, I'm not saying I believe that there's a firmament, but that would tie things up. And I know I said that 3 times now, and I shouldn't have to explain why I don't believe in the firmament, but it would wrap things up and be like a nice bow tie, be like, well, now it all makes sense. Most people can't even wrap their head around that. How the fuck are they going to wrap their head around everything being perfect when they're all spiraling out of control around each other at millions of miles an hour? So in 1 year, I mean, in 1 hour it goes 1 million miles, or whatever they're saying, right? The star. 1 hour, million miles. Try to wrap your head around tens of thousands of years of this happening. Right? Come on. Who's with me? Wake up. You know, sun's here. Sun's going around something. Our planet's going around the sun. It's just, think about it. It's not as simple as a two-dimensional diagram. It's a three-dimensional thing. It's three dimensionals. How it's wrapping around each other isn't just like in a small little tiny thing going like that. No, they're going around everything, which is going around everything, which is going around everything according to the mainstream. However, the only thing that I can empirically prove is that the Earth rotates. That's the only thing I can prove. Everything else is pretty much horseshit from my speculation. Alright, I can't let this video go on too much longer. I just had a mini rant. And, yeah, stay tuned for more content. I might put out another video here in another couple minutes. So stay tuned for more. I'm not going to blow up your feeds, though. So, yeah. Opex, I'm out. Let me know what you think. Comment below. You already know. See ya!